My name is Nick, and I was barely 20 when I left England's cold shores behind, chasing adventure across the vast, unforgiving sea. It was the year 1803, and like many young men seeking purpose, I joined the crew of the Black Maiden, a three-masted beauty, under the stern but wise command of Captain Edward Pearson, a well-respected captain among sailors in British Empire. I served as boatswain, keeping the ship's rigging and deck crew in order, a role of pride for a lad of my age. We set sail toward the east by way of West Africa, charting a course filled with both promise and peril. In those days, the sea was for the bold, and sometimes the damned. Our journey was no tale for calm firesides. We battled tempests that screamed like banshees, our sails shredded by wind and salt. Pirates tested our mettle near the Guinea coast, slavers mostly, with teeth like rusted blades and eyes empty of mercy. We fought them off, though not without loss. It hardened us, bonded us. We thought we'd faced everything the sea could throw our way. We were wrong. Somewhere north of the Cape of Good Hope, the waters turned eerily calm. No wind, no current, just a heavy, unmoving stillness. Days passed, and the Black Maiden sat becalmed on the open sea, her sails limp like the wings of a dying bird. The crew grew restless. The ocean, once alive with motion, now held its breath. Then, one early morning, the lookout's cry tore through the silence. Ship off the port bow. We rushed to the rails. There, barely a mile away, drifted a galleon, a relatively new ship. The oak and pine woods proudly shaped her body, but her sails were torn and hanging like funeral shrouds. It moved without oars, without wind. No flags, no signal, no sign of life. Captain Pearson's eyes narrowed. Could be pirates, he muttered, though his voice lacked conviction. Or a derelict. After watching the ship for some times, no movement could be seen. It's a ghost ship. Captain Pearson discussed something with his second-in-command and decided to check the ship himself. He assembled a boarding party. Himself, me, John, a weathered sailor with a knack for languages, and two others. We armed ourselves with pistols, cutlasses, and a lingering sense of dread, and lowered a small boat into the sea. As we approached the stranger, the stench hit us. Death, rot, and something else. Something foul beyond description. Captain immediately cautioned us. Keep your eyes peeled, men. This is the smell of dead men welcoming us, he muttered towards us. His experiences kicked in. When we climbed aboard, the deck of the galleon confirmed our worst fears. Corpses lay everywhere. I seen dead men before, but not at this horrific level. They weren't freshly dead. The hot sun had bloated them, and the air was thick with flies. Maggots squirmed in eye sockets and open mouths. Some bodies had fallen where they worked, ropes still in hand. Others were slumped near barrels and crates. None bore wounds. Whatever killed them hadn't come from blade or bullet. Captain Pearson scanned the rail. No sign of struggle, he said grimly. Something else did this. The ghost ship is heavily armed, with large cannons, and many bodies have some kind of pistols with them. Indication. This ship was ready for whatever threat that possibly could come in open sea. Cannons, especially the large ones, are expensive. So for a non-battle ship to have them, it must have held significant importance to someone. We moved cautiously below deck. The darkness stank worse than the air above. More bodies, stacked like firewood in hammocks or crumpled on the floor. Yet food stores were full, water barrels untouched. There had been no famine here. The floor was full of bloodstain dried blood. One thing that kept us looking for a while was the valuable cargo this ship was hauling. One man went to inspect the cargo and came back saying it were silver and spices. The silver made a big smile on his face. Captain Pearson's jaw clenched. We need answers. Nick, John, come with me. Let's find the captain's quarters. No one touch anything on this ship. We found it near the stern, behind a heavy oak door. Inside, the captain of the ghost ship lay dead on his bunk, his eyes open and blackened. Blood once oozed through his body cavities. A horror scene of slow death. A journal rested on the desk beside him, its leather cover cracked with age. Embossed on the first page, Capitan Juan de Mena, El Galeón de Plata. The silver galleon, John murmured, Spanish. He flipped through the log and began to read aloud, translating as he went. It was a tale from hell. They'd left the Caribbean a month ago with a full crew and cargo of silver, spices, and artifacts bound for Europe. 7 days out, sickness took root. Men began to bleed from their noses and ears. Soon, the bleeding worsened. Mouths, eyes, even their anuses, until they died choking on their own blood. No known disease, no remedy. Juan believed it spread through water or contact. Someone in his crew was infected when they last stopped in an island in east of Caribbean. In his final entry, dated 17 days ago, he wrote, "We are cursed. No man left to steer, only death at the helm. I await my turn. May God forgive us." The room fell silent. It's a miracle the ship survived this long in open sea without anyone navigating it. Captain Pearson looked at the silver. There were more stacked in crates along the walls, gleaming, tempting, enough to make every man aboard the Black Maiden rich beyond imagination. "No," he muttered, "we touched nothing." "But Captain," one of the men started. Captain raised a hand. "I've seen plague before. In Jamaica, in India. You take a man's wealth. You take his curse, too. Captain Pearson ordered us to go on deck. We going to leave." We were walking in silence when a sound slithered out from the shadows. Low, broken, almost human. It came from near the captain's quarters. We froze. No words were needed. The captain and every one of us drew our pistols. The air turned heavier with each step as we followed the noise, our boots echoing like distant drums of doom on the rotting wood. Then we saw him. A young man, what was left of one, collapsed against the wall. His eyes were sunken, his skin a sickly gray. Blood, thick and black, pooled beneath him. He looked like he had been dying for days, but refused to let go. When he tried to speak, his voice was a rasp, a whisper clinging to the last breath in his lungs. Only John understood him. John knelt beside him, asked gently, "¿Qué pasó, amigo?" What he said was worse than anything we could have imagined. They had eaten something on an island, a wild creature never meant to be touched. A foul meat. Soon after, men began to fall. First the ones who ate, then everyone else. 65 men, dead. He was the final one, the last flickering ember. And then, with cracked lips and blood bubbling at the corners of his mouth, he said something that made John's voice catch in his throat. He says, "We're likely infected too." The words hit like cannon fire. We stood paralyzed, horror sinking in, like rot in old wood. I felt my mouth go dry, my stomach twist into a knot. The man coughed again. This time, a stream of blood oozed from his ears and nostrils. His eyes rolled back. "Still," he whispered. John leaned closer, then recoiled, shaking his head slowly, eyes glassy. He's begging for mercy, John murmured. He wants us to kill him. He can't take it anymore. The captain's face didn't move at first, but something behind his eyes cracked. Without a word, he stepped over to a corpse nearby, pried a pistol from its stiff waist with a torn strip of his own shirt. Carefully, he crouched down, looked the dying man in the eye, and placed the weapon into his feeble grip. He has to do it himself, the captain said, his voice like cold iron. Tell him. John nodded, whispered the words. The man gave the faintest nod. There was nothing human left in his eyes now, just pain and the desperate need to end it. Then, bang! A single shot, like thunder in a tomb. The smoke curled in the air, dancing above the stillness. His body slumped. Silence swallowed us whole. We didn't speak. No one breathed. The captain stood, wiped the sweat from his brow, and turned to us, his face grim as the grave. Whatever curse this is, we're in it now, he said, but we're not dying like rats in a coffin. He raised his voice, cutting through the thick air like a blade. We move. Now. He ordered us to strip naked and throw our clothes on board, including our boots. One by one, we jumped into the cold ocean, scrubbing ourselves raw, before climbing back into the boat naked. Salt water stung like fire in every cut and crevice, but we obeyed. Fear drove us more than loyalty. When we returned, the Black Maiden's crew stared in horror. Captain Pearson barked his next command. Fire arrows. Burn the damned ship now. If the ship reaches the shores of Africa, people will go after its treasures, possibly risking our British Empire in south of Africa with plague. They lit pitch-soaked arrows and launched them across the water. The sails of El Galleon caught fire first. Soon, smoke billowed skyward as flames consumed the decks. We watched in silence as the silver galleon turned to ash. Back aboard our own ship, the 5 of us were sealed in a makeshift quarantine room. Food was left outside. No one came near. For 10 long days, we waited, terrified to feel the first itch in the throat, or drop of blood from the nose. But none came. We emerged gaunt but alive. Some crew still looked at us like we'd risen from the grave. The captain, to his credit, shook each of our hands. We never spoke of the treasure again. Some things are not meant for men to touch, not for glory, not for gold. The sea gives and the sea takes, but sometimes it merely warns. And those who listen live.